front of me, we have a whole collection of items all available from Parts Avatar. This includes a lot of maintenance items. Maintenance items including fresh oil and a fresh oil filter, since we don't know when the oil was last changed. Plus, we drove the car home on the old oil, so we definitely want to flush it and put some fresh stuff in. Up next is that leaky valve cover. That valve cover needs to be replaced as it's probably brittle, cracked, and that's why it's leaking just from age. So we'll do a fresh valve cover there. Let's not forget to replace the spark plugs, kind of going with the history of the car. We don't know it. So we're going to put some fresh new NGK Iridium plugs. Last but not least, going with the same trend as before, a fresh air filter. We want the engine to be breathing, and we want it to be breathing well. So this car sat for 4 to 5 years, probably full of dust, mice, who even knows, right? And then something that is in dire need of replacement as well are the wipers. These wipers are old and kind of fallen apart. The rubber has fallen apart, the plastic has fallen apart. Fresh new wipers will be good, especially when we get stuck in the rain in the Miata. All these parts and more are available at partsavatar.ca. So hop on the site and get what you need to keep your car running good. Up next, we want to remove our wipers, as these wipers no longer even exist. So this is a pretty simple process. We pull up, pull down and out, and then the whole wiper blade actually comes off and we can install our fresh ones. Pick the wiper that coincides with that side of the vehicle and quite simply put it on. So we would go up, down and out, and boom. Fresh wipers. I'm going to do a video with the process of how to repaint and restore your wiper arms, as these are not the correct color and that one has a little bit of corrosion. But for now, fresh wipers so we can see in the rain. Up next, we're going to move to under the hood, where we're going to be replacing the spark plugs as well as the engine air filter. Since both these items we don't know when they were last done, it's just good preventative maintenance to replace them now. So let's get started with the spark plugs, as they are quite easy to do on our fresh valve cover. In order to do your spark plugs, you just need 3 simple tools. You need your brand new spark plugs. These will be linked in the description below. You need your ratchet and you need your spark plug socket. Now let's take off the coil packs and proceed to taking out each of the spark plugs individually. These spark plugs do not look too bad. They are not the original ones, so they have been replaced. These are Denzos. We are going to be installing some fresh NGKs. So these are actually an upgrade. They are iridiums and they will last much, much longer. So I won't have to worry about this for another 100,000 kilometers. Make sure that they are gapped correctly for your engine and that they are the correct size and everything. But thanks to Parts Avatar, we know these will fit perfect. This last spark plug was covered in oil. We just changed our valve cover gasket, so it could have just been oil that got into the back one, or that last O-ring was no longer holding and there was oil leaking into the cylinder. So hopefully we'll be all good now with a fresh valve cover and fresh spark plugs. Now let's go ahead and grab our brand new spark plugs and install them into the Miata. There's no specific order we need to do these in. Just start from front to back. Keep it nice and simple. Insert them into our socket. Pop them in. Take that plastic off, which just flew off in my case. Insert it in the socket. Boom. grab our ratchet, start by hand tightening first. And then you can check online for the required torque spec for your spark plugs, which typically isn't too high. These spark plugs should only be torqued to 11 to 17 foot-pounds, so just a little bit tighter than hand tight. Now we can go ahead and reseat all our coil packs. 1, 2, 3 right here, and 4 to front. Boom. As easy as that to change your spark plugs.
Nice.
Up next, let's do the air box. Let's start by maybe just spraying it down with some all-purpose cleaner first, removing some of that dust on top so none of it falls in while we're changing the air filter. This engine bay will need a full detail anyways, but that's going to be in another video. In order to take off the air box, it is just a simple few 10mm bolts. I am lucky where I have a set of these ratcheting wrenches, which make this removal super easy. Boom. All 5 are off, and now we can gain access to the air filter. It clearly has seen some dirt and some age, so it's always good to put a fresh one in. We can take a look to see if vacuuming is needed, but it's not too bad in there. Pop her down and retighten all those 10 mils again. Boom, there we have it. Fresh new air filter is installed. Now our engine can breathe easily. Now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be putting the car in the air and changing the oil. To get going with any oil change, I always like to loosen my oil cap at the beginning so it's loose and we can have air going out, but I like to keep it covered so nothing falls in while we put the car in the air. Now that we have the Miata in there, we can have a good look underneath it. We can see that there's just a bunch of oil, all probably leaking from the valve cover up there. In addition, looks like our ball joints are set to be due next, so we'll add that to our maintenance list of items. So we'll get those 2 all replaced up. But for now, let's get to replacing the engine oil, which we have the drain plug right here. Now, where's the oil filter? Well, oil filter has to be under this panel. So we'll take it off and we'll take a look. Took everything off to find that the oil filter is right there in one of the most annoying spots possible. It is quite difficult to get to, so yeah, you can actually most clearly see it from here. There we go. Oh boy, that was fun. Now to get it off. All right, oil filter is not on too tight. This bolt right here is a 19 millimeter. Let's get our oil drain pan, our fancy dancy one, and drain the oil and take off that oil filter. So this is one of my favorite tools in the shop. It is our Rodak Canada oil collector, and it works incredibly. So this is the first time I'm going to use it. So there's our drain plug. We're going to set this up to the right height and drain it from there. Now, while the oil is draining, let's get our oil filter off, just up here. Boom, she's off. My oil filter was actually extremely loose and covered in oil, so that kind of explains why it's so oily under here, because it was not tight enough and oil was just seeping out the whole time. So let's wait for this to finish draining. Let's pop on our new oil filter and we'll go from there. Here we have it, our brand new and fresh Bosch filter. And this one will be on tight so we won't see any oil leakage or seepage underneath. Now the oil filter is nice and tightly on. We can put the drain plug back in with a fresh crush washer and then fill her up with oil. So here we have it. Here's a new fresh washer. Here is the old crush washer. So fresh washer on, and we can put her on the car. Now with the oil changed, fresh oil filter on, we can move this out of the way, drop the car, and fill it up with some fresh Castrol oil. Now that the old oil has been drained, let's fill it up with some Castrol Edge. We'll be using synthetic 5W30, and this is what's actually recommended for this 1.6 NA Miata. So let's fill her up with the 4 quarts that she needs, and we're done with the oil change. Good thing I double checked, because apparently the Miata only takes 3.4 liters of oil, so not a full 4 liters. Now with the last jug, we're going to make sure it's just the last 400 milliliters and not the full liter. There we go. That's all it takes. We'll check the dipstick and we'll be all done. Now let's check the engine oil level, make sure it's nice and full. Wipe it down, back in, out, and we are full. We are at the full line. You can tell right there, nice and full. And that's all we need. We are done. Well, there we go. We've completed all the required maintenance on a car that has sat for a while or was a barn find. We changed the oil, oil filter, air filter, wiper blades, spark plugs, and we put on a fresh set of tires that are not 20 years old. So thank you so much for watching. Join me in the next video where I'll be replacing the valve cover gasket and painting my valve cover, or the video of me replacing the top on my Miata. For now, thank you very much, and we'll get to the regular other maintenance items like those ball joints and other things that we have to do to make sure this car is 100%. And as always, all the parts that were used in today's video can be found at partsavatar.ca. So thank you so much for tuning along, and we'll see you in the next one. Remember, Parts Avatar has got your back, so don't forget to subscribe to the Parts Avatar channel so you don't miss any of these exciting videos.